Hello everyone, welcome to Infallible Handmaids. In this video we are going to see how to make odd count herringbone stitch in beading. To start the herringbone stitch we need a base stitch. For that we are going to use the ladder stitch as our base stitch. We say this as a odd count herringbone stitch because in our base ladder stitch we will be using odd number of columns to begin with, and we will be building the herringbone stitch on top of this base stitch. So eventually we will have odd number of columns. In herringbone stitch we add the beads in pairs so that each pair of beads will form a V-shaped structure which resembles the backbone of a fish. As this is an odd count herringbone stitch, for the last column alone, instead of adding the beads in pair, we will add single bead. We have already made a video on even count herringbone stitch. If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you to watch that video before proceeding to this video. The link for the even count herringbone stitch and also the basic ladder stitch and other basic beading stitches are available in our description box below, so please check it out. The herringbone stitch is a very flexible stitch, which means you can actually fold or roll your work, and this stitch is very suitable for making tubes or chains with beads. To differentiate the herringbone stitch and the ladder stitch, I'm going to use two different colored beads for this video. Now let's see how to make this odd count herringbone stitch. So let's get started. To start the herringbone stitch, we need a base stitch. For that I'm using 2-drop ladder stitch. We say this as a 2-drop ladder stitch because instead of using one bead, I'll be using 2 beads. First, I'll add 4 beads to my yarn and leave a tail of about 4 to 5 inches, and then pass my needle up through the first 2 beads. For added stability, we will go one more loop around these 4 beads. To do that, we will first pass our needle down through the next 2 beads. And again pass your needle up through the previous 2 beads like this. Always make sure that your tail end yarn is facing downwards and your working end yarn is facing upwards. Now pass your needle again through the next 2 beads so that we can keep adding beads for our ladder stitch. As this is a 2-drop ladder stitch, we will pick 2 beads and then pass our needle down through the previous set of 2 beads. Now pass your needle up through the newly added beads. We will continue this ladder stitch until we have 9 column of beads. I'm using green beads for the ladder stitch, and I'll be using the purple beads for the herringbone stitch. Finally, we have completed the 9 columns of ladder stitch. Now we can start building the herringbone stitch on top of this ladder stitch. To begin the herringbone stitch, first we will add 2 beads to our yarn. We will skip the bead from where the working end yarn is coming out, and then we will insert our needle down through the next bead. Now the newly added purple beads will sit on top of the first 2 columns of our ladder stitch in a V shape. Now insert your needle up through the next bead. Now add 2 more purple beads and then pass your needle down through the next bead. To begin the next herringbone stitch, pass your needle up through the next green bead. Now add 2 more beads and then pass your needle down through the next green bead. For the next stitch, again pass your needle up through the next green bead. Again we will pick 2 purple beads and then pass our needle down through the next green bead. And this completes 4 herringbone stitch with each pair of beads forming a V-shaped structure. As this is an odd count herringbone stitch, we are left with 1 bead. So instead of adding 2 beads, we will add 1 bead here. So pass your needle up through the last green bead. Now add a purple bead and then pass your needle down through the same green bead. So this locks this purple bead in position. We want this purple bead to slightly tilt in the left side direction. So we will be passing our needle from the left. To start the new row of our herringbone stitch, we want our working end yarn to come out from the lastly added purple bead. That is, it should come out from the top of the lastly added purple bead. To navigate your working end yarn, just pass your needle through this gap from the backward direction and then pass your needle up through the last 2 beads. That is, you have to pass your needle up through the green bead and the purple bead together. Now we can start the next row of herringbone stitch. As we are not going to turn our working piece, instead of adding 2 purple beads, for the next row also I will add 1 purple bead, so that the odd number herringbone stitch always lie in the same side of your working piece. Now to hold this bead in position, we will pass our needle down through the bead that is just below the newly added bead. Now we will continue the remaining herringbone stitch as usual. Now pass your needle up through the next bead. Now add 2 purple beads and then pass your needle down through the next purple bead. Now we will complete this entire row by using the herringbone stitch. Now our second row of herringbone stitch is completed. Now we want our working end yarn to come out from the lastly added purple bead. So pass your needle through this gap from backwards and then pass your needle up through the last 2 purple beads in the corner. Now we will begin the third row of herringbone stitch as usual, and then when we reach the last column of this row, we will be adding a single purple bead instead of two purple beads. Our third row of herringbone stitch is now completed. Now I will navigate my working end yarn to come out from the top of the lastly added purple bead of our last row. Now we will start our fourth row of herringbone stitch. The fourth row of the herringbone stitch is now completed. Now I am going to complete this piece. To do that, I am going to bring my working end yarn from the top of the last bead that we have added. When you look at this piece, you can see that we have 4 sets of V-shaped beads and one column of single bead. And it looks like the columns are separated. So in order to join all these columns together, we are going to weave in the thread through all the beads. I mean the top beads. Now we have joined all the columns together. Now to secure our working end and your tail end yarn, all we can do is we can pass our working end yarn through few beads and then add a couple of knots over the thread bridge and then again weaving your yarn through few beads. Once you feel that the working end yarn is secured enough, you can trim the excess yarn. Always make sure to follow the same thread path, that is the path where your thread has been already passed. to avoid any unintentional changes to your work. We can secure the tail end yarn also in the same way. Now we have successfully completed our sample piece of the odd count herringbone stitch. The piece have a very beautiful V-shaped structure, and thus the name it gets, the herringbone stitch. As this is an odd count herringbone stitch, the last column of our sample piece will have single bead. As we are adding single bead every time to the same corner or the same edge, the thread is showing from the outside. That is the only drawback that I can see from this sample piece. If you have any suggestions or tips to improvise this, please leave your comments in the comment section below. Hope you all find this video helpful. If you like it, please give a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel Infallible Handmaids. If you haven't watched our video on the even count herringbone stitch, I highly recommend you to watch that. The link for that video and other basic stitches video is available in the description box below, so please check it out. See you all soon in another interesting video. Thank you for watching and bye.